have no idea what I'm doing. What's going on, everyone? Despite all of the terrifying shenanigans that's happening in my life right now, we still got cars to build. And I have a plethora of parts to get installing. So, we're gonna make the BRZ a little bit cooler today. Haha, it's funny, because we're just putting a radiator in the car. So, we are swapping the OEM radiator in the BRZ to a solid Koyo Rad. So the whole reason I'm doing this is because I know I'm gonna end up beating on the car. Well, I already beat on the car. So we are going to do some reliability mods to the BRZ just because you guys know I'm all about it. Oh! But with that being said, this should be a fairly straightforward and easy install. If you guys have never swapped a radiator before, prepare to have your minds, your noodles, your canoodles, whatever you call them, blown open, because you're gonna see just how easy this is to do. So like I said, despite all of the craziness that's going on right now, we still got stuff to do to the BRZ and the STI. So update for the STI, I finally got in the last of the parts that I needed to start building it so we can go ahead and start getting some installs done on the STI. Now the thing is I don't want to start doing any of the installs to the STI until I get all the BRZ installs done first. So that way we have one car that's fully operating, so that way we don't have two down cars. Now, kind of an update for everyone on the last video before we jump into pulling off the bumper and getting this radiator swapped out on the BRZ. So I'm still going all in on everything. I'm trying to do what I can to be able to maintain keeping the house. I'm starting up doing headlights again. I might swing a part-time job to be able to help afford bills. So I'm gonna do everything within my power to be able to keep the house, keep the garage, and everything that goes with that. But like I said, last resort, I don't mind selling the house to pursue my dreams, so we will get that figured out in the future, and I will definitely make sure to keep everyone updated because you guys have been killing it with the awesome support with everything. But I'm not gonna go too far into that stuff today because I wanna relax. I wanna clear my noodle today and just kind of focus on doing some BRZ stuff. So the way we're gonna tackle this here, pull off that there bumper right there, that beautiful BRZ bumper. Once that thing is off, we're gonna start draining the coolant out of the radiator. I do have new OEM Subaru Coolant, so we are gonna be swapping that into the car as well. That's also a maintenance item because I have no idea when the coolant was actually changed on this car. So we are going to do that. It's gonna be a pretty straightforward process. Bumper off, radiator drained, radiator off, new radiator on, fill it and burp it. If you've never burped a radiator before, I will definitely show you how to do it. I've done it a couple times on the channel now, but BRZ, it's a little bit different. Not entirely, but just a little bit. So with that, let me get this camera thrown on that tripod right down there. I'm a time lapse through on this, taking this bumper off because you guys don't want to watch me pull a bumper off. And then we'll start talking about this awesome radiator stuff. Voila, bumper over there, no need for it right now. So what we need to do is we need to get the radiator drained and we need to get some stuff out of the way to be able to get this guy out. Now I'm gonna have to pull off this intake snorkel here going up and around to this. I'm probably just gonna pull out this whole intake tube and cover up the throttle body so we don't not get any shmoo in there. So disconnect the math, undo, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts? 4 bolts, pull that whole thing out. I'm gonna have to disconnect the AC condenser right here to get to the radiator, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to start pulling off all these lines back here and whatnot for the radiator itself. Now once it starts draining though, then we'll disconnect those lines. So I'm gonna start clearing out some of this stuff up here first. The way I'm gonna be draining this is down on the bottom of the radiator down here, there is a lower radiator hose. I'm planning on just pulling that one out. You can also pull out the galley plug that is like right down here on the bottom of the radiator if you want to. So I gotta pull this tray off too. There's so much stuff that I gotta like pull off here. So I'm gonna pull off this lower trim panel also, pull off that intake and start draining the radiator. I'm not quite sure which location I'm gonna drain it from yet. So once I get it going, I'll show you guys which spot I chose and we'll keep going on this install. Okay, so while I let that drain, there's some other things that we need to do. So we need to take this core support off on the car right here. So on the BRZ and FRS, it's pretty nice because there's just a couple 12mm bolts, 2 on each side, 1 on the side of it and 1 on the top of it. We're gonna have to take the hood latch off, so it's just 2 12mm bolts, and then at the bottom of this runner guy, there's 2 more 12mm bolts, and then that whole thing will just come right off, and that'll give us access to get to our radiator right there. So while this guy continues to drain because it's taking forever, and yes, I did take the cap off because I know some of you are gonna ask, I'm gonna get going on pulling this guy off. I've already broken the bolts loose a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get this guy pulled off, we'll get it set aside, and then that'll give us access to get down to that radiator and start swapping that guy out down there for that lovely Koyo that we have sitting in that box right there. Wow, it looks so like naked without all this stuff. With all this stuff. That guy's still draining. So what we did, like I said, there's a bolt here on the side, and then there's two down there on the bottom that you're gonna have to get. So now we're kind of ready to pull the fans out of here. So on the back side of the fans, on the passenger side, you'll see two electrical connectors, one going to the fan itself, and then one right below it. So you're gonna have to disconnect those two electrical connectors. And then there's gonna be these push clip tabs that hold the actual fan to the radiator. So you're gonna have to go ahead, you're just gonna have to squeeze them together to get the radiator out. And then make sure you disconnect the one hose up here that does go to the overflow container. And then with that, this guy should just pull right out. These tabs are gonna be a little bit annoying to get, I'm gonna warn you now. But in an effort to keep going while that drains, we're gonna do that. And then we're also gonna get this AC condenser unbolted from the radiator. So if you see like right here, there's a couple 10mm bolts. There's two on each side that bolt the AC condenser up to the actual radiator. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get those four undone. There's one right there also, and then one on the opposing side. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the fans off the car, get the AC condenser off the radiator, and then hopefully by that time this guy's done draining and we can get the radiator out of the car. I'm gonna tell you now, the annoying part is going to be the clamps that hold the actual hoses to the radiator. That lower one down there, I'm really not looking forward to, and I'll show you why here in a second. This has to be the most like complicated radiator install on any car. So we've got all this shmoo out. The fans are detached from the radiator, so they're off of those tabs down there. Now we got to undo the upper and lower radiator hoses. And then once we get the hoses off, this guy's completely drained now. We need to get these tabs off. So there's two 10mm bolts in there that actually hold the mounting tab for the radiator so it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna fight with these upper and lower hoses first. Once I get the clamps off of those and the clamps moved backwards, we're gonna undo the two bolts right here, and then I'm gonna start pulling out the radiator to get it out of the car. So the clamp, that clamp on the bottom, that one is going to be the worst because the clamps are actually on the bottom side of this hose. So I'm gonna have to fight with it to be able to get that clamp moved. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start getting this upper and lower hose off just so we can get this guy swapped out. All right, so as you guys saw, old radiators out, new radiators right here. That's a B. Don't like that. And we have a lot of space in here right now. So just like everything, I am curious to see the core difference on these. So we have our handy dandy calipers here. So the OEM core, how big is you? Whoop, 16 point, that's about 16mm. And the new core, Jesus, 36mm. So we're getting a 20mm increase between the new Koyo radiator versus the old OEM one. And that one looks kind of gross. And I did want to show you guys something just because some of you think, I've seen this, but some of you guys think that the air doesn't flow through here. So as you can see right through this radiator. It's not like air goes into a radiator and it doesn't come out the backside, because I get a lot of questions saying, hey, where's all the air gonna go? You're not gonna get any airflow when you run a front mount intercooler into your radiator. That's simply not true. An intercooler is pretty much the same as this, where you have air that flows right through it. So just so you guys, air fully passes through the radiator on both of these. So we're gonna do the reverse process here with this Koyo radiator. Thankfully, they do send some new nice hardware on this one, so that way we can get everything bolted up real nice. But the one thing with this, so this is the backside of the radiator. Now, as you saw on the OEM one over there, the fans clipped in. So this is gonna have to bolt in. So when it comes to lining up the fans on this, luckily the holes are big enough right here where we can run a bolt through it and actually bolt it to the back of the radiator. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this guy fitted up in here, get it down into the mounting holes on the bottom. You can see the two rubber grommets, one on each side. And then once it is fitted up down there, we'll get the hoses connected up to it, and then we'll get the top brackets put back on, and then we'll get the fans on. It'll be the whole reverse process. So I'm gonna get going on this, and there's just a lot of room in here, so let's fix that. Pretty heated at the moment. This clamp has been the biggest pain in my this entire time. I spent 40 minutes getting that one clamp on. Literally every other clamp went on. Lower hose, just fine. These three, just fine. That one, 40 minutes of my life consumed by this clamp. Glad it's out of the way now. So I need to put the radiator fans back in. Now, these are not gonna bolt up the same. There's no more like little clip doodads for them. So they're gonna bolt right into the actual radiator on these two tabs right here. And then there's two lower tabs down there if you have a radiator that utilizes them. This one only has two tabs that we're gonna be using. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and get this guy fitted back up in here, get those two electrical connectors plugged back into the radiator, start getting everything else reassembled, and then I'll show you guys how to burp the system, how to fill it properly, and get this thing going so we can wrap this up. All right, well, that was a little bit of a pain getting everything back together, but everything is back together. Beautifully and OEM looking factory type. You can't even see the radiator, which is a little interesting. But anyways, it's time to fill and burp it. So we're gonna be filling the radiator from the upper coolant cap right there because it's the only spot to fill it. So I have 2 gallons of Subaru OEM coolant right here. I'm gonna go ahead and fill this guy up. Once we get it filled up, I'm gonna start the car, let it start to cycle. Now, you guys gave me a lot of crap for it last time. I don't have the funny funnel thing. I don't have the funnel that connects to that. I was gonna buy one, but Amazon's down right now, so I'm gonna use some tape and tape that funnel to that. Judge me if you'd like, but I promise you it'll work. Perfect! It's not the best funnel, but it works. Okay, so as you can see, the funnel itself is full. The masking tape didn't work too well, so I mean, it held the funnel. It held the funnel in place. So now we need to burp this. So what we need to do is we need to hop in the car here, take the keys, put in there, turn on. All right, well you're gonna want to turn the heat all the way on, and you're gonna want it all the way up on defrost, max, and then start the car, and we're gonna make sure to monitor it to make sure that nothing overheats and that we're getting a lot of bubbles out of there. So let's get this going. Now, it's probably gonna smell like coolant when you're doing this, but you're gonna see the coolant level come up and down, and you're gonna see bubbles. We're gonna wanna run the car with the heat all the way on to make sure that we get all the bubbles out of the system. Now, you're gonna spill coolant, so be ready for that. I'm gonna grab a rag, hang out here, and soak up the spilt coolant as it starts coming out, and we're gonna continue to monitor this until all of that air is out. Now, the reason that we want to do this, we want to make sure we get the thermostat to open up in the car. When the thermostat opens up, you're going to see that coolant level drop because it's going to start letting coolant flow throughout the engine. Now, this is why I say you want to monitor temperatures. You don't want the car to overheat. If the thermostat isn't opening up, you're not going to get that coolant flow going through here. So make sure that you are watching the bubbles. Make sure that you do have something to soak up any spilt coolant if you're like me and you don't have the correct funnel for this. But keep an eye on this. We're gonna let this run for probably about 10 minutes. I'm gonna just let 10 minutes elapse by. You'll see this little like cut screen right now. Okay, so it's been running for probably about 20 to 30 minutes now. The heat inside of the car is back to normal, so everything is nice and warm. As you can see down there on the ground, the coolant did spill a little bit, so I'm gonna have to clean that up. I put all the old coolant in one of those old Subaru Coolant container dealios. But so far, so good. This is actually done. We're done burping the system, so coolant stopped bubbling. The heat is back to normal in the car. So actually, let me hop in here and turn this off real quick. Let's turn that off. Turn the car off. Coolant's gonna come up and bubble out a little bit since everything stopped flowing. Not so much. So I'm gonna pull. It didn't work, by the way. But if you're in a pinch, it'll keep the funnel in place. Radiator's been swapped. We got that bigger Koyo radiator in there. I also have the whole reason that we're doing this radiator, and then also in the garage I have a set of radium dual catch cans that we're going to be installing here this weekend also. The whole point of doing this is because the BRZ, we're gonna take it up to the mountains and we're really gonna thrash on this car. I really want to see what it can do compared to how the STI handled up there. And I'm also going to be doing a point of view kind of driving style up in the mountains to see how this car actually handles and how it performs, and really get on the car. So I do want to make sure that the reliability aspect of the car is taken care of. So with that being said, one less thing to do. Plus, like I said, I want to be getting all of these BRZ installs done before actually doing the ones on the STI. We do have all the parts for the STI now, so I'm a little excited to get those installs going. So we're going to probably be starting on the STI teardown next weekend after I quit after my last day of work. So we'll literally have all day, every day to get these installs going on the STI and getting it ready to get tuned. So I'm pumped. Are you pumped?
I'm pumped.
So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get the BRZ taken off these ramps, get it all buttoned up, whatnot. We have a couple errands that we gotta be running here shortly. But with that being said, if you guys liked the video, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that little thumbs up and turn it blue, just like the Subaru. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, which you should be, because we got a lot of cool stuff coming to the channel soon, let's do right up here in this top, my right, your left corner. And with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies. Woo!